Night 2, of course, John Cena beat Cody Rhodes without help from The Rock. And there's a lot to talk about there based on not only the main event, based on the Raw after WrestleMania and the Pat McAfee show after the Raw after WrestleMania. So at WrestleMania, John Cena beat Cody Rhodes. Travis Scott interfered. There was no Rock appearance, and Cody lost, not really because Travis Scott interfered. If anything, Travis Scott got comeuppance for what he did at Elimination Chamber. Cody Rhodes lost because of exactly what John Cena said would happen. Cody Rhodes lost because he didn't want fans to believe he was a bad guy. And I even said, it goes back to what Joe Tess and I said on the Countdown show, which it's ironic that it panned out that way perfectly. That I was talking about Cody, should forget his manners and fight emotionally and do all this, and he didn't. He fought with honor. And that's what John Cena said would result in him losing, and that's what resulted in him losing. There was a lot of frustration with Travis Scott getting out there because it didn't lead to The Rock. It didn't lead to Stone Cold. It didn't lead to anything. It just was Travis Scott being out there. I wasn't bothered by it, but I do think that it signaled that there may be more. And when there wasn't more, I could understand the frustration. I was underwhelmed at the heartlessness that it ended with. But that being said, having a match like that was as heartless as it was, is John Cena's whole MO. It does fit in to the John Cena character and the way John Cena would win the title and the way this John Cena would become the 17-time champion. He's ruining it. He's ruining wrestling. Travis Scott does play connective tissue to the Elimination Chamber turn. But like I said before, it also made us want The Rock. So before we get to what's next and the bigger picture of it all, The Rock on Tuesday went on Pat McAfee's show. And he basically said that, he said a lot of stuff, right? He talked about Cody Rhodes possibly turning heel, but then the choice was made to turn John Cena heel, which it feels like we're a little close to be pulling the curtain back that much, but that, that's what was said. And ultimately, I think that is the right call. I think that if you're going to turn one of them heel, John Cena getting a heel run here before he retires, we're at least getting that. And honestly, I don't think it's time to turn Cody Rhodes heel. And I understand he got booed at WrestleMania, but he's to me still too good as a babyface. And I believe he'll be able to come back and win the crowd back. Every time people have doubted Cody, he's proven them wrong. So I have no doubt that the people are prepared for that to happen again. On SmackDown, they tried to boo him. And with a microphone, it took him 30 seconds to turn the crowd right back to his side. The Rock also said that he never intended to be at WrestleMania because after the Elimination Chamber, the spotlight should be on Cody Rhodes and John Cena, which is, true enough, right? Like as the story was told, it became about John Cena's choice to not embrace the crowd. It became about John Cena's choice to turn on the crowd. In the beginning, the first John Cena promo, it wasn't about The Rock at all. It was just about John Cena being dismayed at the fans and what the fans had done to him for all these years. And aside from Cody mentioning The Rock once or twice, he really didn't come up at all. I have no problem with this story being about John Cena turning. And as a matter of fact, I think it should be, because John Cena turning is the headline story. The only problem for me is The Rock said that he felt like after Elimination Chamber, the final boss's work was done. Okay. Tell us. Give us a signal. Make that clear. Maybe instead of the final boss signaling John Cena to turn, maybe John Cena decides to turn and the final boss kind of nods in approval. Like, I didn't see that coming, John Cena, but good for you. That way we get the message that John Cena is not turning because he's sold his soul to the final boss. He's turning because he wants to turn. Because at no point has John Cena made reference to selling his soul to the final boss. At no point has John Cena made reference to doing this for The Rock. John Cena has only made references to doing this for himself because he is being selfish and because he wants to take the title home for himself. You know, I think WWE has a whole year of not only John Cena being there, but of massive shows. You're talking about Money in the Bank in Los Angeles. You're talking about SummerSlam being 2 nights in a stadium. You're talking about Survivor Series being in a baseball stadium. And I'm sure more and more and more and more. I think John Cena has to be a babyface when he leaves the WWE at the end of the year. I also think that the final boss's work is not done. No matter what, no matter who feels like what. Because clearly the audience did not get the message that the final boss's work was done. Nobody felt, there was no bow on it. The loop was not closed. I think the final boss somebody has to explain whether or not John Cena sold his soul, why he sold his soul, what it means if Travis Scott is a soldier of The Rock, if he's a soldier of John Cena, if he's acting independently. Somebody's got to explain it. And then how does the final boss fit into all of this? Because right now, all of those questions are still wide open and we have no idea. So you wonder, how can you effectively kind of fix this from a narrative point of view? Because I kind of think you should. Otherwise, it feels like an incomplete story. And I was actually kind of racking my brain going, well, John Cena is effective as a heel. You can say what you want, but there's no getting around it. Like, John Cena was cheered coming into the Raw after WrestleMania, and he got the audience to boo him. Like, John Cena is effective as a heel. It's going to be very difficult because, like John Cena has said, he is leaving at the end of the year. Some people are like, well, he's a heel, so he could be lying. He's not lying. You know, he's saying, I have made such a big deal out of this, I cannot not retire at the end of the year. So by that same principle, how can he become a babyface again after everything that he's said? I think that that's where the final boss has to come in again. If we're not going to see the final boss for a while, I think that the final boss has to come in. And I think that John Cena has to say no to the final boss, has to not do what the final boss wants him to do, has to lay the final boss out, has to do something. Maybe it's after SummerSlam. Maybe it's, I feel like SummerSlam could be a good place to do it. You could do it a little bit later. I feel like Survivor Series is a little bit late. And I already feel like Survivor Series War Games, you could easily have Roman's team versus the Dangerous Alliance. But regardless of all that, I think that at some point towards the end of the summer or early in the fall, John Cena has to be a babyface again. I think that you have to close the loop on this final boss John Cena thing. And I think that the perfect way to do it would be to use it to turn John Cena back babyface. Final boss is an effective heel. The Rock going out there and saying things that fans don't like in real life only amplifies it. And I think that John Cena turning on the final boss would instantly make him a top babyface and would allow you whatever you want to do. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months to end John Cena's career with him as a babyface. It's almost like no questions asked. If John Cena gives us permission to cheer him and lays out the final boss and doesn't do what the final boss wants to do. Maybe that's when John Cena loses the title back to Cody. Maybe John Cena loses the title to somebody else. However you want to do it. I think that is how you do it. And it puts a bow on the final boss's involvement. It puts a bow on the John Cena heel run. It allows us to cheer John Cena on his way out, and it cleanly gets us into 2026. For me, I feel like that's the biggest way to do it. And by the way, after John Cena takes out the final boss, maybe the final boss leaves us with one last protege. Right? If John Cena goes back to being a babyface, maybe the final boss has one last protege before he tips his hat and says goodbye for now. And that protege is very big and very Scottish. Because Drew McIntyre, as a heel, with The Rock's approval, doesn't have to sell his soul, doesn't have to do anything that's going to require more knowledge from the final boss. It could just be the final boss going, that's my guy. That's the guy who I pick. Drew McIntyre coming in at the very end of that and starting a rivalry with John Cena because John Cena turned on the final boss, I think is the best way to close the loop on this insane final boss stuff and make John Cena babyface again.